One of the biggest assumptions I hear is you can homeschool because you're a trained teacher. The truth is, being a trained teacher did not prepare me to homeschool. Being a mom did. In fact, being a trained teacher actually made things a little bit harder for me to homeschool my kids. If you're interested in finding out how, keep watching. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle and I am a homeschooling mama to 4 kiddos ages 13 all the way down to 6 months. And today I am busting the myth that you can only homeschool if you are a trained teacher. Just a little background. I have a degree in educational studies and I have taught in grades K through 3rd for the past 5 years before deciding to pull my kids out of public school and become a stay-at-home mom to homeschool them. There's a few different reasons why me and my husband decided to homeschool our kids. It wasn't necessarily that I felt like I could do a better job at this, but being in the public school setting and seeing things from a completely different perspective just made me realize that my kids needed something different. Now, full disclosure here, I am speaking based off of my personal experience and my opinion. Now, I know that not everyone homeschools and not everyone wants to homeschool. I'm a big advocate that you do what you feel is best for you and your family. I am hoping that I can just shine a little light for that mom that thinks that homeschooling is just too far off for her and that it's too out of reach. And if you're looking into homeschooling and this is speaking to you, then please keep watching. Now let's back up just a little bit. If you're not familiar with the history of the public school system, it actually has roots in the Industrial Revolution. The idea was to create a standardized system that could effectively educate a large group of children at the same time, in the same way, with the same outcome. It was modeled just like a factory. Bells, schedules, sitting in rows, moving from subject to subject, all under one authority figure. And honestly, that system worked for what it was designed to do: produce disciplined, obedient workers who could follow directions and fit into an industrialized society. Now, fast forward 100+ years, and that same model is still being used today, even though our world looks completely different. Now, when I was training to become a teacher, that system was still the same foundation. I took so many different courses on classroom management, behavior management, basically how to teach 25 to 30 kids how to behave, how to follow rules, how to sit quietly so that you can teach. Now, yes, those skills are essential when you are dealing with that large amount of kids. It makes sense. I need to learn how to manage my classroom, or else no learning is going to be done if these kids are doing their own thing, they're not listening, they're not paying attention. Now, the downside to that is that there really is no room for kids to, one, be kids, and two, create their own personality. The first few weeks of school is not spent on teaching them any type of academics. It's strictly spent on managing your classroom. It's strictly spent on teaching rules, teaching how to raise your hand, how to sit, how to ask to go to the bathroom. There's no room for kids to just be kids, to be curious, to explore, to ask questions, or to just be themselves without being labeled as a distraction. And I really valued my students' individuality, and I really try to create these spaces and these times for them to be able to express themselves and for us to bond and get to know each other. But the reality is that with that large amount of kids in the classroom, there really just isn't enough time, and it does need to be very, very structured, especially if you're teaching in a grade that is a testing grade, because you need to get those kids ready for those exams and you need to check all of those boxes. So time gets cut in so many places. And even with me trying to spend that time nurturing their individuality again and spending that time creating those relationships with my students, we did fall behind with some things because I personally valued that a little bit more. Now, when it comes to homeschooling, homeschooling is not public school at home. Homeschooling is truly a lifestyle. Schooling happens at all times. So trying to recreate the standardized traditional school system at home is setting yourself up for failure. This is speaking off of my experience and my personal opinion, that if you think of it that way, you're gonna have a lot of struggle trying to make your homeschooling work. And I'm saying this because guilty right here. I was trained a certain way. I went to school for years in education and learning how to be a teacher. So when I decided I am going to pull my kids out, we are going to do this homeschooling thing, I wanted to create the perfect schedule. We are going to be doing X, Y, and Z at this time, at this place, and we are going to knock everything out. Everyone is going to get what they need. And I quickly found out that that does not work, at least not for my family. Now, here is the beauty about homeschooling is that you have the freedom, you have the time to fully get to know your kids, to move things around and tailor it specifically to your child and what works for you and your family. Now, if you are pulling your kids out of public school to homeschool them like I did, it's actually recommended that you unschool your kids. Some even say up to 1 whole year of unschooling before you jump into any curriculum or any formal learning. Now, what I was not prepared for was just how much unschooling I had to do myself. So I knew that my kids needed a little bit of that to kind of get them used to being at home and doing school at home, because again, homeschooling is not doing traditional school at home. It really is a lifestyle change for everyone. And I'm coming in with the traditional school setting mindset too, just like my kids, because my kids did go to public school for the first few years. My daughter, she went all the way until 4th. My middle child went until 3rd. And then my little guy, he finished kindergarten before I pulled all 3 of them out. So they were already quite familiar with the public school setting. And it took us some time to kind of, essentially undo that. And we're going to learn a new system. And if I'm being honest, it took me longer than it did them, because I didn't even realize that I had to go through some of that unschooling myself. Again, I was trying to recreate it. I had the schedule in my mind. I thought that I was doing something different, but essentially what I was doing was trying to recreate that school setting at home. And you'll quickly figure out, once you're in it, you'll figure out that you're gonna have to do a lot of moving pieces. And we are going into year 4 of homeschooling, and I am just now starting to kind of figure out what works for us. And what works for us is so different than what I had in mind when we first started. And honestly, I love that. I love that I'm learning something new right there, right along with my kids. And I will say something for the mom or the dad, for the mom or the dad that thinks that you cannot homeschool your kid, that thinks I don't know enough to homeschool my child. I would like to challenge you this. If you do not feel comfortable homeschooling your child because you feel that you just don't know enough, then why would you want to send your kids back to that same place that taught you? Being a trained teacher is not what qualifies me to be a homeschool teacher. Being a mom is what qualifies me to be a good homeschooling teacher to my kids, and it is what qualifies you to be a homeschooling teacher for your child if that is what you want to do. If you are willing to put in that time to educate yourself, to learn right along with your children, then you are qualified. I am spending so many hours pre-reading these books that my kids have to read for their curriculum. I am spending so much time listening to audiobooks on different teaching philosophies that I feel aligned with my homeschooling style so that I am prepared to teach my kids. And these are things that I did not learn while I was getting my degree in teaching. When I was getting my degree in teaching, I was being taught how to teach in a specific setting. Yes, there are things that I learned, like the different teaching philosophies and child development, that do help me in a sense when it comes to my children. But for the most part, the majority of the things that I need for my kids right now, I am learning right along with them. No, you do not need a teaching degree to teach your child. And that is something that I will die on, and I 100% believe that you do not need a teaching degree to teach your child. I had to unlearn everything that I thought that made a good teacher and relearn what it meant to be a present, connected mom who's leading her kids with grace and not control. So if you've ever told yourself, I could never homeschool because I am not a teacher, I hope that you hear my heart in this. I was a teacher and I still had to start over. I had to unlearn so much of what I've been taught, because homeschooling is not about control or credentials. It's about connection. It's about knowing your child, tuning in, and creating a life where learning happens in every moment. You don't need a degree to be qualified. You need love, patience, and a willingness to grow right along with them. And if you're already showing up for them day after day, mama, you're already doing the hardest part. Thanks for being here with me. If this encouraged you today, I'd love for you to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps more mamas find this kind of support. And if you'd like to hear more real conversations like this, I'd love for you to subscribe and stick around. And hey, if you know another mama who's thinking about homeschooling but seems a little bit unsure about it, send her this video. You never know who might need the encouragement. Thanks for hanging out with me today. You got this, mama.